What about these guys up here? Does anyone recognize them?
Cameras.
Cameras, satellites, right? The United States has hundreds of spy satellites floating up above our heads as we speak. And in fact, when Raúl Reyes, the leader of the FARC, was recently assassinated by bombing across the border into Ecuador, it was actually U.S. spy satellites that pinpointed his location. They sent that information on to Colombia, and they did that bombing run.
Like Syriana.
Like,
Syriana, where they use the satellites to target the...
yeah. And so we'll skip a couple of these guys because they're less important. But does anyone recognize these guys here?
Helicopters.
Yeah, specifically Black Hawk helicopters, just like from Black Hawk Down. And they are the guardians of the chemical spraying planes. These actually fly in front of and flanking the chemical spraying planes to protect them from anyone who might want to shoot them down. But they're basically, you know, you have to keep in mind that these are airplanes flying over rural Colombia, farmers' fields, and these helicopters are coming in with machine guns, torpedoes or missiles or air-to-ground missiles, and they often like decimate the landscape in front of these planes, just wiping out the people so that there's no chance of any resistance. So we'll move on to the next section with the. So the next section is about the chemical spraying, and so does anyone recognize the insects that these planes are represented as?
Dragonflies.
No.
Monsanto, what's the symbol there? It looks like a Nazi symbol.
They're locusts. And this is a biohazard symbol. So, and of course, as we know, locusts destroy everything they touch, right? Now, is anyone familiar with these two corporations that are represented here? First, Monsanto. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about Monsanto?
I don't know that much, other than I know that they're highly influential in the world of or genetically engineered crops.
Right, absolutely. Yeah,
And
they're the
also,
leader.
A big seed seller of
Mhm.
genetically modified seeds to third world countries.
Right.
They sell seeds that are tied with the fertilizer that you have to buy to grow the seed, so you have to
Right.
buy both that you're hooked.
Right, and they also produce Roundup, and they also are linked into the former producers of Agent Orange, and in fact, Roundup, which is technically called glycophosphate, is the chemical that they spray on the coca fields at twice the legal amount that is allowed here in the United States. And if you don't know about Roundup, it basically kills everything. In fact, Monsanto's their number one GMO crops are the Roundup ready crops. They're modified in such a way that they're resistant to Roundup, so that the fields can be sprayed indiscriminately and everything will die except for their crops.
Which are probably also single generation seeds, right?
Yeah, often they are. Yeah, exactly. So what about this one, Dynecore? This is maybe a lot less people know about this, but if I said Blackwater or Wackenhut, yeah, they're a mercenary organization, and they're the folks who fly these planes. This is another example of how this so-called aid to Colombia is actually just really going back into the pockets of U.S. corporations. And you can see that they're flying in here at high altitude, spraying these chemicals indiscriminately, and that is in fact the way that they fly these planes in Colombia. It's not anything like the crop dusters that we think of, that fly down low over the fields and spray a controlled burst of chemicals directly into the fields. They fly high enough that they can't be reached by small artillery. So, and they dump like tons of this stuff out on each run. So it spreads indiscriminately over the forests, all the farmers' fields, and this whole concept of precision strike of coca fields is, frankly, it's totally untrue. So, and you can see the fields way down here, and surrounding them are these trees which have been totally defoliated by these chemicals, and they're dying. And sometimes it's hard to notice, but these trees are made to look like a rib cage. Does anyone have any ideas why?
The rainforest being the body of
The lungs of the planet,
lungs of the world? Yeah, exactly.
where most of the oxygen is produced.
Right, right. And this is,
what's the significance of the white people slash
yeah,
animals?
these are ghost animals, which are, they represent extinct species who are still hanging out in spirit. But let's see. Since we don't have a lot of time, let's move on to the. So in the next section, we have a number of creatures here. Can you pull this a little tighter so we can see it?
Absolutely.
Does anyone recognize what these creatures are? Sucking out of the earth. They're mosquitoes, right? And some of them are oil pumps, but there's a few others as well. What's this guy over here? It says Ford up here, and he's extracting rubber from the trees because it's the auto industry, which has a huge investment in Colombia. It has extracted rubber. It's had rubber plantations are a historic thing. They don't exist so much anymore, but they still have a strong grip there. What about this guy here? Nestle, right? Yeah, chocolate, cocoa, coffee, sugarcane, water. Nestle's invested in all of this very heavily in Colombia. They're one of the biggest players there. What about this guy over here?
Medical.
Right, medical. Can you tell it more specifically what he's doing? He's extracting medicines from plants, and what is he doing with them? Here. Patenting them, copyrighting them,
Copyright.
and reselling them for enormous profit.